change. This is WGAO Franklin, Massachusetts. Power 88. Southeastern New England's hottest rock. All day long.
Good morning. You are listening to the Alex Fuez Show, bringing you all of the news, sports debates, interviews with people you all care about, and so much more. Every single weekday on Dean College Power 88 Radio, broadcasting live from 7 to 8 a.m. And now, here's your host, Alex Fuez.
They want to hear the Thanksgiving song. All right. This is a Thanksgiving song. I hope you enjoy it. Love to eat turkey. Love to eat turkey. Oh, I love you. Love to eat turkey.
Welcome to the Alex Fuez Show. Once again, Chaz Stoba and Austin Dakuda and I bringing you up until the 8 o'clock hour on the Alex Fuez Show this morning. 2 weeks from today is Thanksgiving. I can't believe it. And I was thinking about singing, Austin and Chaz. Chaz, you missed it yesterday. I started singing on the show yesterday.
Oh, it was great, Chaz. Should have been here for that.
Yeah, you can listen back to it online. But my dad texted me. He goes, never do that ever again.
I agree with him.
Was it that bad?
It wasn't good. That's the problem.
I sound like Adam Sandler. Even worse?
I wouldn't say worse. It was just your own thing.
My own thing?
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about singing the turkey song, but then, I don't know, yesterday didn't go over so well. So I might just say no more.
That's okay.
We have a lot to talk about today.
We do.
A lot of things in the news, but then it's still cold out, Austin.
It is, and it's not getting that much warmer either.
Ugh. What's the weather report?
It is currently 15 degrees here, Alex, in Franklin, Massachusetts, and it'll reach a high of just 38 degrees today. Warmer weather is on the way tomorrow, as it will reach a high of 51 degrees.
Whoa.
Let's take a look at the ride into Boston today. 495 looks clear both ways at the moment in the Mass Pike to Boston. It's experiencing heavy traffic this morning. Expect about a 20 to 40 minute delay on your ride in. Route 24 North is backed up this morning to exit 19, as well as 93 backed up a few miles outside of the tunnel. And finally, for the trains today, if you are taking, as the trains are running on time, with the next train coming through the Dean College stop at 7:12 a.m., followed by a 7:58 a.m. train.
Again, lots to talk about today. Justin Verlander, though, last night, in the midst of the Astros getting into some trouble, Austin, we talked about it on the show yesterday. I say take the championship away from him.
Oh, I don't think you can do that.
Do it.
Here's the thing about sign stealing, Alex. You have to look at it as people have been sign stealing for years.
But now you're adding technology into it.
I understand you're adding technology, but at the same time, you might know a fastball's coming. You don't really know exactly where that pitch is going to end up, and you still have to be able to hit a 99-mile-an-hour fastball cutting away from you. So I think, although you might say, all right, I know it's going to be a curveball coming here or whatever it is, you don't know whether Trevor Bauer is going to throw a curveball that's breaking front door or going back door on you or whatever it may be, away from you on the outside corner. Yes, you can aim. Even if you look at the signals and you're like, all right, guys, it's an outside fastball coming. You might not know where that pitch ends up because a lot of times pitchers can miss spots. They can, aim a little bit higher and end up lower, wherever it may be. But you still have to be able to hit the pitch. And that's why I think, yes, sign stealing might matter a little bit, but I don't think it really determined who deserved to win the World Series.
I don't know if you've seen the video or not of John Boy, a good friend of the show. John Boy, who does the lip dub, who made it famous of the Savages in the Box for the Yankees. He's a good friend of the show, and we'll have to have him on soon to talk about this. But he made a whole video. He found the footage from the whole Astros season. From any game, you can hear the banging in the dugout. It's not just during the postseason. It was throughout the whole season. And this is something that sign stealing, if it's, any element that you can have without the technology, I'm not opposed to. But when you start adding a camera in the center field to zoom in on the catcher's signs and it being put right into the dugout seconds for them to let the batter know what the pitch is going to be or not, that's an issue.
I think it is an issue in terms of the whole, technology, and if it's every single game, every single pitch, that's kind of a lot. I mean, but at the same time,
that's what it was. It was every pitch.
But you have to look at it the other side too. The Astros pitchers still have to be able to hold the other teams to runs, not allowing a ton of runs either. Because as much as they're stealing signs on every at bat, if it was that big of a deal, the Astros would be 162-0. If it was that big of an impact on the season, I mean, yes, they won the division a couple times and they've made it to the World Series. But if they were still doing it, and if it was that big of an impact, then this team would be literally unbeatable. But as you can see, sign stealing, yes, it does matter. But even if you know the pitch, you're not guaranteed to hit a home run on it.
Well, in the 2017 postseason, they were basically unbeatable. Yes, they went to Game 7 against the Dodgers, but still, in 2017, they were unbeatable. I think teams started figuring it out into the 2018 and 2019 season. That's why they kind of came back a little bit more down to earth in comparison to 2017. Yes, they were still a phenomenal team, and they were still one of the hardest teams to beat, but it's just unfair. And you can see what's really insane. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but I can look them up during the break. The numbers between home and road splits of the hitters, the 2017 season as well in the 2017 postseason for the Astros, is astronomical. I remember off the top of my head, I know Jose Altuve is batting .400 at home in the 2017 postseason and in the 100s on the road. That's astronomical. That's 300. That's a 300 difference. That's huge.
Yeah, it is huge, but I still think it's, like I said, I see a problem with it, but not as big of a problem as everyone's making it out to be, because, like I said, you still need the talent to do things. And as you said, Alex, the splits for the 27 postseason home and road, I'll take a look at those. So Bregman on the road batted 154. At home, he batted 273. Correa's road average in the postseason 2017 was 211, batted 371 at home. Altuve batted 143 on the road and 472 at home. So the splits,
that's a huge difference. Come on.
There were 9 road games, 9 home games in the postseason. So it was pretty even in terms of game distribution. But at the same time, teams play better at home. That's why home field advantage exists. So you can't.
Not in 2019.
Not in 2019. That's an exception. That's why that hasn't happened before. That's why I haven't seen it before, because this year was an exception. It was an outlier.
But you have to agree with me. That's almost 200 points.
Well, I'd like to see stats of other teams' home road splits in the World Series or the
we could look at the Dodgers specifically. I think that would be the fair assessment. How are the Dodgers hitting at the Astros Park? And then also, I'm sure it has to help the pitching as well.
I'm sure. Well, does it help the pitching though? Because Garrett Cole was still able to go 20-5. So, what does the camera in center field do by benefiting the pitchers of the Astros?
I feel like maybe it would, if the pitchers are tipping their pitches, it could give them a better look.
That wouldn't really say it matters much. I mean, you have guys like Eduardo Rodriguez was tipping his pitches for the Red Sox 2 years ago, and Dustin Pedroia was the one to correct that. I mean, it's not true. Like tipping pitches is something that's hard to correct. I don't think the camera would really be a huge factor to that. I mean, I don't think it's right. I mean, I'll say this. I don't think it's right for the game to have the camera in center field and stealing signs. It's not that big of a deal because you have a runner on second base. Whenever there's a guy on second, they steal signs or try to steal signs. And how do they know, too? That's the thing. Like, what if the catcher changes his sequences? First inning, it's 1's fastball, 4's changeup, and next inning, it's 4's fastball. Well, they don't know that either. So it's not a proven technology either. It's not like they have a note sheet from the Dodgers and it says on the thing the sequences that they're going to use that Will Smith or Austin Barnes are going to use, and it's going to say, 1 is fastball, 2 is changeup, 3 is curveball, but only after I touch my left shin pad or whatever it is. They don't have a proven way of knowing what pitch is coming. I get that they can, use their, what they would call kind of, and say, all right, this is pretty logical how MLB baseball works. But at the same time, if other teams really thought that they were, tipping their pitches or whatever, then they can change their sequences. And each pitcher comes in and throws a different number of pitches. I know the scouting reports will tell you that. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to know exactly what's coming because if they change the sequences.
Chaz, you've played baseball for pretty much your whole life. What's your take on this?
I'm kind of in agreement with both of you in the sense that, yes, it's not a guaranteed hit if you know the signs, but it definitely is a large advantage for the team stealing the signs. Like you said, playing baseball all my life, if I knew whether or not a fastball or curveball was coming, that really does give you an advantage, especially in high-pressure situations where perhaps you have 2 strikes on you and you know a fastball is coming. You're not going to be sitting on a curveball, or vice versa. A curveball is coming. It helps you a lot, but at the same time, this is at a professional level. There is spotting for pitches, and there's a lot more that goes into the game than just fastball, curveball, slider, whatever they're throwing. But it definitely does give an advantage and sort of taints the image of the Astros over the past couple of years, and especially their World Series run.
And especially A.J. Hinch, who has been seen as one of the best managers in the game. And now this coming out, especially after he made a remark after the question was asked. The Yankees made a comment about hearing whistling from the dugout this postseason in 2019, and he basically made a comment that's laughable. If that would have worked, we would have been starting to practice that since spring training, and now that makes him look even worse. Austin?
Yeah, and an interesting thing is you said how it damages Hinch. It does. And Alex Cora and Carlos Beltran were also heavily involved with this. It was reported. I don't know how true that report is, but there's a couple news outlets that are picking that up now. So that's obviously a really, really bad look now on Cora and the Red Sox organization, because one report said that Cora was heavily involved, and now the Boston Globe is investigating whether or not, Cora was involved and what did he really know. And now you have Carlos Beltran, who was a player on that team.
And now
who was
a manager.
Yeah, one of the veteran players. Now is going to be managing the New York Mets. So right off the bat, it's kind of a classic Met thing.
Yeah.
In a way. But
Chaz, let me ask you one more thing. Let's say, I love these theories. Let's say you were a member of the 2017 Dodgers team. You played, what's your position?
Outfield.
So let's say you're an outfielder for the 2017 Dodgers World Series team. And the news came out on Monday. What would your reaction be?
Oh, I would be irate.
Okay.
To think that you spend, not just your team, 31 other teams, or at least teams that haven't been caught, have been working their entire off seasons, working through the entire season to make sure that they're giving themselves the best chance to win the World Series and make a good playoff run. For a team that's just going to go through and steal signs like this, it's almost like a slap in the face in a way to the teams that have put in the work and have played a game of honest baseball and have played by the rules. And I get that sign stealing has been a part of the game for a while, but it's different just kind of picking up pitchers' motions or looking down at the catcher from second base or trying to pick up, patterns in either them. But using electronics is a different thing. Using cameras in center field to look at the fingers and try to pick up signs like that, it's a completely different thing, and I don't think that's fair for anyone in the league.
So what's the punishment? That's the dangerous thing. Do you take away the championship? That would be the most of an impact, because now you're basically erasing the whole 2017 season in a way. Because no one really remembers, that's the thing about baseball, right? So, let's say last year the Red Sox win all the games that they did, and they weren't able to win the championship. 10 years down the road, if you aren't a diehard Red Sox fan, you're not going to remember how many wins the Red Sox had unless they won that championship. Same thing in 2004, the biggest or the greatest comeback of all time. If the Red Sox did not win the World Series championship after defeating the Yankees after being down 3-0 in the series, no one would have remembered that. Now you start talking about taking away the championship from the Astros. I said as a joke earlier, I don't know truly what the correct punishment is, I feel like to reestablish some sort of credibility in baseball, you have to have some sort of just punishment. I think maybe a draft pick. But again, this Astros team has been so successful, they don't have a good one anyways. So I don't know what would be interesting to see is the Astros are unable to make the postseason in 2020. That's one.
There's a lot of different ways this could go, Alex. And I think the most logical thing, and well, not logical, but I think the most likely to happen would be the Astros get fined a hefty amount and some draft picks get taken away, other penalties within the organization. Maybe A.J. Hinch is suspended a year, depending on his entire...
That would be interesting.
That would be interesting. I think they're going to investigate everybody's involvement in it and say that they see that Cora was heavily involved and Hinch kind of knew about it but didn't do anything.
And
what if Alex
Beltran
Cora
too?
and Beltran are suspended? There's a lot of different ways the MLB can look at it, and now that the season's completely over, I expect this to get investigated rather quickly too. Or the MLB could kind of let this blow under the carpet or whatever and just kind of go away, which I don't know if they'll do that because it impacts so many teams. Every team in the league, essentially, that played the Astros.
Right.
Guys are talking about it on Twitter. Trevor Bauer made some tweets about it earlier. Mike Clevenger, a couple different guys on the Indians and Clevenger actually said, he goes, we knew about this already. We figured they were stealing signs. I mean, you had guys, but like one of the things too, I want to point out is Mike Fiers is the guy who brought this really to the forefront. The former Houston Astros pitcher from the 2017 team. There's a picture out there of Mike Fiers with, looks like pine tar or a sticky substance on his glove. And Fiers said, I want to make the game more pure, whatever he said, or how he wants to make the game, played the right way. But there's pictures going out there with him pretty much cheating with pine tar on his glove. It's unconfirmed what it was, but you could see there's a clear sticky substance on his glove. So it's interesting. And I don't know why Fiers waited till now to bring it up. There's a lot of questions, too, with why he's doing this at the moment. But it just makes it really look bad on the Houston Astros organization as a whole. And there's so many parts. We know there was a couple issues with the Astros assistant GM in the playoffs, too. And there's been a lot of issues with this organization. And it's making it very hard to root for them if you're a fan.
It's very tough because it's unfortunate, right? The Astros a month ago, as the playoffs were started, everyone was kind of like a fan. This is a team that struggled for many years and now have created a new dynasty. And when you have guys like Correa, Altuve, and then you look at the rotation of just Verlander, Cole, Greinke, this could be one of the greatest teams formed in this era of the game. And now they are I said on the show yesterday, and I'll say it again right now, they are now the evil empire of the MLB. Move over, Yankees. They're the evil empire. And, it's funny. When players got busted in the steroid era, the Astros do not need the extra help to be successful. Or
that's what I was going to ask.
But jokingly, I was thinking, well, it's almost the same as an Alex Rodriguez-esque type conversation. It's a whole team. Because, the biggest thing about Alex Rodriguez that frustrates me, he did not need the steroids. He was a great player, made his debut at the age of 18. Age of 18 on an MLB team. That's uncalled for, especially in today's world. And yes, he did use steroids. Obviously, he was suspended for a whole season. But the fact of the matter is, he didn't need the steroids to be successful and to be a Hall of Famer. I think that's why he'll get inducted, but that's a whole nother conversation for another time. He didn't need the steroids. And this is the same case. The Astros did not need to cheat by having a camera in their center field wall.
Yeah, you look at the talent on paper, and it's unmatched throughout the league in many ways. You have, this year especially, you have Alex Bregman, a MVP finalist at third base. You had 2 Cy Young Award finalists in your starting rotation. One of those, Justin Verlander, who was named the Cy Young. So you have so much talent on paper this year. A lot of those guys were on the team in 2017, that World Series team. So you have to look at it as, did they really need to do this? Now, I've been reading some reports, and it's not 100% confirmed that they did it in the World Series. It is confirmed they did it in the regular season at points, but it's not 100% confirmation about the World Series. But either way,
and the American League Championship Series is confirmed.
yes.
So
Getting to the World Series. I mean, that's why I went to 7 games. The World Series.
Maybe,
but at the same time, I mean,
but why wouldn't you do it in the World Series if you did it all season up through the American League Championship Series?
I mean, you got to look at it too. Is guys on second base are constantly stealing signs. That's why pitchers change their sequences. So,
but the guys on second base don't have cameras that are zoomed in on the catcher signs.
They can see pretty clearly what the catcher signs are.
Well, sure, but again, it's technology. That's the issue.
It is technology. MLB's afraid of technology.
Because if you're a runner on second base, it makes it 10 times harder for you to communicate to your dugout what the pitch is without them knowing.
Well, you're not communicating to the dugout. You're communicating to your hitter at the plate because you can see the hitter clearly. So it's an easy line of communication.
But still, the catcher can see that. You know,
can,
and then
but what's he going to do after he already called the pitch? He can only call timeout so many times, especially with the mound visit rule.
Well, that's true. But again, I think the mound visit rule came in to effect in 2018.
Right, but I'm saying signs still get stolen from second base every single game. Hence why we've seen Kenley Jansen, the Dodgers closer. He actually balked twice this year to get a runner from second base to third base just so he couldn't pick up his signs.
Well, you know, again, it's... You talk to players that have played the game throughout all the years, right? And, you know, David Cone or, you know, these great pitchers, they always talk about, we had some pine tar on our belt, or we had pine tar on our shoes, or in our hat, or whatever. Or, you know, stealing signs has been really in effect since Little League. So, you know, some of these guys, that's what's special about baseball in a way, you know, that just try to outsmart the other team all the time. But then when you start getting that effect of just bringing in other elements to and have an advantage over a team that the team doesn't have,
right?
That's an issue. Same thing with the Red Sox and the Apple Watches from a year or two ago.
Right. Like you said, it's a technology aspect. I mean, there's going to be sign stealing at every level in basic ways that they've been using since 1900, since the game started.
Well, and the other side of the argument is if, you know, there were cameras to this state of technology that we're in 50 years ago, I'm sure teams would have tried it out then.
Well, think about it this way, too, is if you're like the Fox broadcast, or whoever has the World Series, that camera, like I'm watching at home, I can see what the catcher's putting down quickly most of the time. What if the Astros just broadcast that in their dugout, which it is broadcast in their dugout?
Well, because there's a 8 to 10 second delay.
Okay. So it's the delay that causes the issue there.
Yeah.
So there has to be a very highly technology savvy person that can, or organization as a whole, that can get a live feed, not without a delay, just right to their dugout.
You, in a way, in a sense, you have to give credit where credit is due.
Well,
you know, because the Astros aren't dumb. I think maybe looking back at it, they are, because if they were smart, they would make sure that no player would ever, you know, expose them.
Yeah, how do you protect that?
I mean, you could go in a dark way and like have a contract, you know, where you don't speak about this. I think you could do something like that, like off the record.
Yeah, it's a very sketchy.
You know, it's sketchy,
scenario.
But I mean, come on, that had to have been done somewhere else in form in sports.
And we used to steal signs when I played in Babe Ruth too.
I mean, again, people have been doing it since the Little League.
Like I remember there was a game where the catcher, we were just standing in the dugout and you could see the catcher's signs, like he was tilted in a way that you could see him, and we were calling out. The kid only threw a fastball and a curveball, so it was his. We'd say the batter's first name if it was a fastball, and then his number if it was a curveball.
Chaz, what do you think about punishment? What do you think the Astros, if you were the commissioner of Major League Baseball today, and the number one task on your desk was to give the Astros a punishment for their, let's say it came true that officially that they use a camera to steal signs in the postseason and in the regular season, what would you do?
Well, you definitely can, in my opinion, at least take away any accolades that they've gotten that season. Like Jose Altuve, the MVP season he had, and all the championships, the pennants they won, the World Series. You can't really take those away just because who are you going to give it to? You can't take away in 2017 and give it to the team that lost in the World Series because it just wouldn't really make sense because they didn't actually win the game. Sure, the Astros had the advantage, but it's hard to justify them being World Series champions if they got beat. So I don't really think you can take the accolades away from them, but I do see them being slapped a fine. I do see them serving some suspensions on the team based on sort of involvement and how much knowledge each player or manager had. But they definitely need to have a pretty big punishment for this, because if they don't, it sort of sets a precedent for the rest of the league that so long as you don't get caught, cheating is all right. And even if you do get caught, it's nothing more than a slap on the wrist. So they really need to think long and hard about how they want to handle this situation and how they want to move forward with this kind of situation, make sure that doesn't happen again.
Well, tweet out or post on Facebook and comment below on the Facebook page what you think should be the punishment of the 2017 Astros team. Coming up next, top 5 news headlines of the day here on Power 88. Any way I want it. That's the way I need it. How's that? Is that better? Just speaking it?
I wouldn't say it's better. I just let it kind of fade out.
Oh, I tried. Anyways,
It's okay. Good effort. I appreciate the effort.
I am hoping with that music, any way I want it, that's the way I need it. It gets warmer today.
Not really. Right now it is still 15 degrees here in Franklin, Massachusetts, and it will only reach a high of 38 degrees, so you're going to have to stay bundled up for the day, Alex. Warmer weather is on the way tomorrow, however, with a high expected of 51 degrees, so a little bit warmer coming up this weekend. Let's take a look at your ride in today to Boston. 495 is clear both ways at the moment. The Mass Pike is experiencing heavy traffic once again, but a 20 to 40 minute delay as there are patches of traffic from Newton back to the 495 connection. Route 24 North is backed up this morning to exit 19, as well as 93 being backed up a few miles outside of the tunnel. And if you're taking the trains this morning, they are running on time. The next train will come through the Dean College Station at 7:58 a.m.
Well, thank you, Austin. I appreciate the weather updates. Now, top 5 news headlines of the day. Chaz Stoba and once again, Austin Dakuda and Alex Fuez bringing you up until the 8 o'clock hour this morning. Broadcasting live on Power 88 from Dean College. Top 5 news headlines of the day. Colin Kaepernick won't know who will attend workout ahead of time. Colin Kaepernick is working out for, I guess, NFL teams. I know the New England Patriots are sending a representative to see Colin Kaepernick. That's an interesting note to make. But I feel like all 30 teams are going to send at least someone to go see Colin Kaepernick play or work out.
The thing about Colin Kaepernick is a lot of teams are going to be scared off simply because of the sort of stigma surrounding him. Of course, he was sort of not kicked out of the league, but sort of forced out of the league a couple years ago due to kneeling for the national anthem. But NFL says they'll hold a workout for him. Sources originally said earlier yesterday that ESPN had agreed, or NFL had agreed, to give ESPN a list of teams that would be at the workout. They later said that the league never promised to provide that list, but there are some teams that have confirmed that they will be there. Some teams of those including the Dolphins, the Lions, the Falcons, the Bucks. John Elway from the Broncos also said he will be represented there. The Cowboys and the Cardinals have also showed interest. So right off the bat right there, that's 6 or 7 teams that have showed interest in at least going. Whether or not there's going to be more teams, like you said, the Patriots have interest in them, but have not yet completely confirmed as to whether or not they're going to go. But it'll have to see. On the other side, Carolina Panthers safety Eric Reed, who was, as you know, one of the first players to join him in the kneeling, called it a PR stunt. He thinks that the NFL is just trying to kind of gain publicity and get in the news again and host a tryout for Kaepernick, but he doesn't actually believe they're really going to give him a shot.
I mean, it's been a few years now since the last time Kaepernick has played a football game. And now this is the point that comes challenging. I think, yes, in a way it is a PR stunt. And let's be real, sports is a business, right? And Colin Kaepernick, that's why he got his contract with Nike, is a public figure that gets attention quickly just because of the fact of the stance that he took. Or I guess stance is the wrong choice of words, but the kneeling that he took a few seasons ago, kneeling during the national anthem, and now Colin Kaepernick is known not as a football player, not as a quarterback, but as a person that is standing for injustice in the country. And now it's up to the executives in the NFL. And there's been lawsuits, that he brought to the NFL that he felt like he was, there was stuff behind closed doors that did not allow him to get back into the league. Now, whether or not that's true or not, definitely for the NFL to host a workout and especially allow him to work out and these teams to go see him, they're still of an interest. And I feel like if there weren't an interest with teams that need a backup quarterback or a starting quarterback, they wouldn't have attended. And that's the thing that's different about Kaepernick, right? Is that there's quarterbacks out there that every team needs a backup quarterback. The Patriots need a backup quarterback to Tom Brady. The Chiefs need a backup quarterback to Mahomes. You always need a backup quarterback, and that's why I feel like teams are going to go see him work out, because when he was playing, he was pretty decent, right?
There's no denying the talent that Kaepernick has, and I think to your point about teams sort of blacklisting Kaepernick, I can see it being a possibility, because if you think about it, there's probably a lot of NFL viewers in the country that saw him kneel for the national anthem, started seeing the trend start to build, and a lot more players start following. I think there are a lot of fans of the NFL that have different political beliefs than Kaepernick may have had, so they saw it as disrespect to the game, disrespect to the country, and they may have possibly stopped watching the NFL. NFL sees their viewers go down, their ratings go down. Maybe they tell teams not to look at Kaepernick the same and not look at him as a quarterback more than a political figure. But there's definitely no denying his talent, and there's definitely no denying that there's teams in the league that can definitely use a quarterback like him, namely possibly the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Redskins, teams that are down like that without a franchise quarterback who maybe needs something like that. And Alex, what is your take as far as him getting back in the league? Do you think it can happen? And if it can, who do you think is going to take a chance on him?
Well, I think it's so difficult for him to come back this season. I feel like, yes, he's been trying to stay, in shape, but it's almost the same conversation as, the last time Colin Kaepernick played an NFL game was over 3 years ago. And, I find it almost laughable at this point to have him return this season. I think, if anything, it would be for next season, because let's just look. It's been a conversation about Rob Gronkowski making his return to the NFL, and people are saying that he's only just, 8 months removed from the last NFL game he played, and he can't be ready. So how can Colin Kaepernick be ready? That's something that I just don't buy. I think at the end of the day, if Colin Kaepernick does get signed by a Dolphins or by a Bucks or a Bengals team, it's for next season.
That's definitely a fair point to what you just said. And like I said,
I think to answer also the second part of the question, I think it would be interesting to see a Miami Dolphins sign him.
Well, as a Dolphins fan, I don't really want to see him signed, although I do see it as a possibility and a plausibility. The Dolphins, I think, need to start over, essentially, as an organization. We have a lot of draft picks in the next couple years, first round, second round combined. I'd like to see them take a quarterback like Burrow, like Tua, like even Trevor Lawrence in next year's draft, and kind of start with a young talent and hope to develop him around a young core and kind of see what that equates to in the future. But
and I think you can almost say that about any NFL team that his possible landing spot is. So in almost a sense, he misses, his bubble of years. I think that every team that might have thought about signing him 2-3 years ago, it's already past the time. Teams have already moved on, and it's just not worth signing a guy, and it's not because of his name. It's not because of what he stands for. It's not because of what he is. It's just the simple facts of how can I make our team better. And us signing Colin Kaepernick, I don't think that it's going to improve any team. That's the difference.
Colin Kaepernick is 32 years old. The past 3 years that he's missed for football could potentially and probably would have been his prime. Now that mid to late 20s and even early 20s is kind of the prime of your athletic career, your peak physical condition, and him missing these past 3 years and trying to make an NFL comeback at 32. I mean, we've seen guys like Calvin Johnson, like even Andrew Luck this year, retire at age 30. Andrew Luck, who's been one of the most prominent quarterbacks of the past couple of years.
Talk about a surprise.
Retires at the age of 30, and here's Colin Kaepernick trying to get started 2 years after that at 32.
Yeah.
It's hard as an NFL team to buy into the hype and take a chance on someone at that age and with as much experience as he has right now.
Headline number 4. This week is Fat Bear Week 2019. And it says, Holly is the fattest brown bear in the national park in Alaska. And the park's brown bears have been eating nonstop. And they say it's good because this week is Fat Bear Week.
Yes, it is a week once a year that takes place in November and is called Fat Bear Week, like you said, at Katmai National Park in Alaska, where the park officials say that this is not about fat shaming or anything like that. They're not making fun of the bears. It is actually a good thing because bears can lose up to 1/3 of their weight over the winter in hibernation. So the fattest bears do tend to have a much higher chance of survival and will be the healthiest bears come the spring. So, like you said, the winner of this year's competition was a brown bear named Holly. She weighed in at 435 pounds. Now, Alex, you don't have a picture of Holly. There's a interactive feature on the website that I'm seeing here that you can slide over and you can see the transformation between July and September for this bear. And let me tell you what, this bear had to have put on easily 150 pounds in the span of a couple months. It is a absolute unit of a bear. And the runner-up, also named Lefty because he has a little left ear problem, he gained a inexplicable amount of weight. I'd say he's pretty close to Holly as far as weight. But Fat Bear Week this week, it's a fun thing to see, especially amidst all the political troubles that have been going on recently.
It's a fun news story. I like
Sure
it.
is.
Talking about another animal that's interesting. Narwhal, the unicorn puppy, is melting hearts worldwide.
Did you see this, Alex? It's a abandoned puppy, actually, named Narwhal, aptly enough because he has a birth defect that causes a tail to grow out of the middle of his forehead, much like a narwhal or a unicorn. He is a rescue dog at a rescue group called Max Mission in Missouri that specializes in dogs with special needs, injuries, abuse, and stuff like that. This 10-week-old puppy they took in, it has an extra tail, like I said, in the middle of its forehead, and has gone viral and blown up and has become sort of a poster child for the rescue group and is starting to raise awareness for their motto of special is awesome. And a lot of the workers there see this dog as an opportunity to kind of take him around and show him off and show that being different isn't only okay, but it is great and it is something that is perfectly acceptable. And they're going to kind of take him around and visit schools and hospitals and stuff like that and show that being different is okay.
I think this is amazing, and I wish I could adopt a dog. I wish I could have Narwhal, but I can't, unfortunately. But the only concern I would have is if, as the puppy grows, that the tail gets bigger and it becomes an issue.
The doctors that they've took him to have said, as of right now, there is no real reason for the tail to be removed. It doesn't pose any threat. It doesn't have any actual function. So as of right now, it's completely healthy. It's just a birth defect similar to that of like a extra toe on your foot or a cleft palate or something like that. And to your point about adopting him, the shelter is not actually letting him go up for adoption yet. They want to wait a little bit, make sure he's grown, and make sure the tail doesn't evolve into a problem. But as of right now, it is just cute birth defect.
Yes. Headline number 2 is something that, every time I read the newspaper, I always check, and I feel like anyone that reads the newspaper always jokes about looking at the obituary section to see if they're still alive. And an English newspaper apologizes for obituary of man who is still alive. It happened. So an English newspaper has apologized for publishing an obituary about someone who, to their surprise, is still alive today.
They claim to have checked with 3 quote-unquote independent sources. I don't know who their sources were, but...
Well, they were wrong anyways who it was.
That's correct. The man goes by the first name of Charlie. His son actually put out a post on Facebook saying to everyone offering condolences about my dad, Charlie, he's not died. This is not true. God knows where it's come from. He's alive and well. A picture of the father and their son posted to Facebook. It's gave them a good chuckle, but it also gave them a scare. I mean, what would you do if you woke up in the morning, looked in the newspaper, and saw your own obit in the section of the newspaper? I wouldn't even know what to think.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would laugh. But just because, every time I read the newspaper, I always see, oh, am I in here? But I think it would be kind of funny if I had checked and I was still alive and they had it in there. But again, we're happy that he is alive and well, and hopefully it never happens to him again or anyone else. That's scary, especially if, like, let's say, the son wasn't close to him and he read it. That's also a thing. That's scary.
That definitely gives you a scare. So it's definitely good to see that our friend Charlie is alive and well and still kicking at the ripe age of 83.
Headline number 1. Again, we always like to end this part of the show. Top 5 news headlines of the day with what national day is it today? And today is Guinness World Records Day.
Guinness World Records Day is sort of a day about, Guinness World Records and attempting to break them. You have thousands of people that come together and find unique records to try and break. And actually, last night, I went on to talk about news and sports, and I actually touched upon this. There's one man who's attempting to break the record for the fastest speed in a body-controlled jet engine power suit.
Whoa.
Sort of like a real-life Iron Man in a sense, where he can fly in his own suit, controlled by his hands. The record is currently 32 miles per hour and is held by none other than himself. And this year he comes back to try and break it again.
Break his own record?
Break his own record, the madman. There's a lot of records to be broken. Takes place today, all day, so I don't know about breaking any world records myself or you at all, but you never know. There's a lot of interesting world records out there that possibly could be broken by the average man.
I mean, you would think, maybe that could be a challenge. Maybe I'd need to find something that I could try to break.
Well, I'm sure we could go on Guinness World Records, and they definitely have some sort of tab or something or link to records that are easily breakable because they want to see a lot of people come out on Guinness World Record Day and support and try and break records.
Sure.
So, sure, we could find that.
Well, that ends the top 5 news headlines of the day. Coming up next, we have a surprise segment for you all. Stay tuned. Next, here on Power 88. Welcome back to Power 88. Chaz Soba and Alex Fuez bringing you up to the 8 o'clock hour here on Power 88, broadcasting live from Dean College. For the surprise segment today, we will be giving our quick predictions of this week in the NFL. Starting off tonight, the Steelers and the Browns. I feel like, Chaz, that the Browns are going to win.
It's an interesting matchup because now the team is really doing that hot this season compared to expectations. Obviously, the Browns look to be big this year. Steelers have always been kind of big, sitting at 5-4 and 3-6 respectively. I got to give this one to the Steelers. They've been on a bit of a hot streak. That's just my take for tonight. Browns have been sort of struggling. On to Sunday's 1 o'clock matchups, the Falcons and the Panthers. Personally, I have the Panthers winning, although the Falcons did pull off that huge win last week against the Saints. Alex, what's your take on this one?
I got Panthers. Cowboys, Lions.
I'm going with Cowboys for this one.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Jaguars, Colts. What are you going for this one?
I got to go with Colts.
Definitely going to go with Colts on that one as well.
Bills at the Dolphins. Or
Even
Miami.
as a Dolphins fan, I'm going to have to give this one to the Bills, although we've won 2 straight. I don't see us pulling off a third. How about you?
For the heck of it, I'll say Dolphins. Why not?
Yeah, well, we'll go over to the next matchup. 2 more for the 1 o'clock. We have the Texans at the Ravens.
Ravens. Simple.
Ravens easy,
Yes.
especially on the tear that they've been on.
You got the Broncos and the Vikings.
So this one has to go to the Vikings. They've been pretty strong this year. Not so
Yeah.
much for the Broncos. Moving on to now the last 1 o'clock game of Sunday, rather. The Jets at the Redskins. This will be a real barn burner.
Geez. I think I have to go with the Jets.
I'm going to go against you there and say the Redskins,
Okay.
actually.
Cardinals and 49ers.
Cardinals and 49ers, it's pretty simple. I'd probably have to say the 49ers are going to take this one. I'd have
Yeah.
to imagine.
49ers for me.
Next, the Bengals at the Raiders.
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 Yeah,
Bengals
Raiders.
aren't too good this year.
Patriots taking on the Eagles.
Gonna have to give this one to the Patriots.
Oh, I predicted the Eagles.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
That would be an upset if they pulled that one off.
Yep. And then also we got the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Chargers Monday night for football as well. I have to go with the Chiefs.
That's going to be an interesting matchup for sure. Obviously, the Chargers pulling off that big win last week, but it's hard to stop Mahomes and that Chiefs offense, so I'm going to once again have to give it to the Chiefs and agree with you there.
Well, there's some big matchups this Sunday in football as well as this weekend. But stay tuned for more. Once again, signing off for Chaz Soba and Austin Dakuda. I'm Alex Fuez. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. And once again, be kind to one another. Have a great day.